Let's do some quick intros. I'm going to introduce 5 very cool filmmakers, and I'm going to mention one of their films. As they come up, I would like you to applaud for the film and the filmmaker as they come up. First, I would like to introduce the director of one of the best horror movies in the last 10 years, The Descent, Mr. Neil Marshall. Next, I have a gentleman who, with his first feature film, proved that Americans can actually do horror comedy and not have it suck. Director of Zombieland, Mr. Ruben Fleischer. In this city, the next gentleman needs no introduction whatsoever, but he did direct the ass kick that is Planet Terror, Mr. Robert Rodriguez. Next, we have a gentleman who's done a lot of work over the years in film and in TV. But a couple years ago, he proved that the giant monster movie was not dead, and for that, I think a lot of us are very grateful. Director of Cloverfield, Mr. Matt Reeves. Last and certainly not least is a gentleman who inspired that. That is a House of the Devil VHS in a clamshell box. Ladies and gentlemen, Ty West. Thank you all for coming. Have a good day. So basically, I've done panels before. Nothing as colorful and as exciting as this. I realized that when you're going to talk to interesting, colorful filmmakers who make kick-ass horror films, your best bet is not to tie yourself down to QA. So how we're going to work this is I came up with a bunch of topics that these gentlemen all thought were monumentally brilliant. I think Robert's going to sign me to direct the Predator sequel. And we're going to just run through these topics, and then we're going to take 3 or 4 questions from the audience on that topic, and we're going to go on to the next one. That's how I roll. Now, what I would like from the filmmakers, if you don't mind, is when I name a topic, I will talk to one, but if you have a point, look at me, because I want all the interesting stories. For example, the first topic right now is going to be war stories with the MPAA ratings board. That's what I would like to talk about. And I would like to first direct this one towards Mr. Marshall, because he might be able to give us a little perspective between the British ratings board and the MPAA ratings board.
Unfortunately, I haven't got any more stories to tell. I've been very, I guess it's lucky with the censors on both sides. The BBFC, I've never cut any of my movies down at all. A lot of my movies, I just make them for maximum gore, maximum whatever, and at no point have they ever asked me to cut them down, so I've earned whatever certificate they felt that film warranted. I've never got into any battles with them whatsoever. I've censored myself. I think on Dog Soldiers, I cut out a scene of one of the major characters, had a really horrendous death scene, but we'd already kind of given, it was the character Spoon, and we'd already given him his best line at that point, just before he's about to get eaten by werewolves, and we kind of didn't feel like you need to go back to see him ripped in half with all his guts spilling out. So I cut that out of the movie, and they refused to put it on the DVD because it would have upped the certificate, but that was the distributor, not the censor or whatever. So on my films, I've literally just made them, and they've gone out as is, as I wanted them to be. So I haven't got any war stories, I'm sorry.
Sure. Rob, do you have anything about the MPAA?
I was pretty lucky because for some reason the tone of my movies is so comical. I remember Quentin having a lot more trouble for like not showing, and you're getting cut off in Reservoir Dogs, and then Desperados mowing people down, and they would say, oh, "This is our kind of violence. It's fun." So I didn't have much trouble with that. We were just still done. We thought we'd have more problems, and the trick is, and there's tricks. right up front, when the guy's burning in the popcorn in the opening scene and his legs are kicking like that guy in The Thing, I let that go on for a really long time. I mean, he's kicking and dying and burning and roasting, and because it gives him something right up front that they can get shocked about and say, you have to cut that down. And then it's probably the first note they make, and then from then on, it's just, there's so much going on that they give in. So you do that note, and then I did this trick where I desaturated the blood in the second half, but just for their copy. And then once it got past, and I made it really dark. I remember Quentin turned to me and goes, "How did you get that shot in?" I go, "I gave him a really dark print." And then once it goes in the theaters, it's back up right again. I kind of fucking remember.
Matt, I thought you told me you had a couple of war stories?
I don't know the war stories, but when we did Cloverfield initially, we had gone through the script, and there was I really, at one point I was like, oh, it'd be really great to do this and make it R. But then there was a director from the studio that really wanted PG-13. I was like, well, it'd be a shame is to make the movie and make it exactly the way we want to, and then end up getting the R anyway, and then cut out this stuff that I wanted, and we adjusted all these things. And there's a moment where Marlena explodes, and it's the same thing. The first cut, of course, got an R. And I was like, well, this is exactly what I thought was going to happen. And we did the same thing. We desaturated the blood. But the thing is, they kind of give you a reason that your movie is rated R. It's not so specific, but one of the things that they said was, because they're supposed to, obviously, for nudity, for language, for excessive gore, but one of the things that we were rated R for in our first cut was monster intensity. That is so unfair. I mean, is it just having a monster makes it R-rated? You can see a monster on a Saturday morning cartoon. And it was a challenge because the movie was done in this handy-cam way where we weren't supposed to be able to have cuts unless the camera cut for some reason. So how would I adjust? There was one battle scene in particular that really bothered them. So we did the same thing. We just turned down the sound effects. And of course, later they got much louder, and it did it. That and desaturating the blood.
How long do you think till the MPAA owns up to that trick? And it's like, no, we want to see the real saturation.
I don't know. Well, no, but the desaturated blood we did. That is ultimately, it isn't as red in the final film as it was initially. I didn't quite get away with that.
Yeah, it's the old days.
Well, I've operated a bit under the radar in that my first two movies were unrated, so I didn't have to deal with it, although I don't really feel like they would have been that much of a challenge. And then I've just been fortunate, like House of the Devil, like, we got an R for some bloody violence, that's all they said. So it was a piece of cake. But the trailer, we couldn't intercut anything with violence and kids, and you can't have someone shoot a gun at the camera in a trailer, so I'm told. And we had to make the blood like black. And all that was kind of a pain in the ass. But no, I've been very fortunate so far.
Mr. Blake, I want to hate them, but I don't.
You will.
Yeah, probably.
For me, it was a bit of a learning curve, but we were R just kind of inherently because if you shoot a zombie in the head, which you basically have to do, inherently, so we had an R. And somebody gave me a piece of advice like don't have a soft R. Now, although ours is a comedy, as much as a horror, like we put in a lot more fucks and things just to boost the R so that the 17-year-old kids that get to go to our movie and it's exciting for them, they hear one more fuck. But like one thing that was really funny that was a consistent theme when we show the movie and people would fill out the forms like in the testing process was that like a recurring comment of things that they didn't like was that there quote not enough boobs, and I kind of like didn't want to put I didn't want to put gratuitous nudity in it, but I forgot, like, when you're like a 17-year-old boy and you go see a movie and it's R, you want to get more bang for your buck, and so, like, maybe in the sequel or something.
3D moves. I've gotten 3 texts in the last 30 seconds that have told me that not everybody in this room knows who I am, so I'm supposed to introduce myself. I'm Scott Weinberg. I'm the managing editor of a wonderful website called Cinematical, and I'm very proud to be the film critic for Fluidet.com. Sorry, guys. That's not why we're here. But I would like to open the floor to 3 or 4 people who might have any specific questions to these gentlemen about MPAA issues or just how they work. Right? Yep.
I guess this is directed towards Rodriguez and Wes specifically. You guys have both done penis trauma in movies.
Penis trauma is the question on the board.
Yeah.
Is that anything that the MPAA has some specific issue with?
I don't remember them. The guy collecting balls in Planet Terror didn't get anything. Bruce Willis ripping the balls off of Yellow Bastard. No, I think by that point,